Hello, good morning, everybody. Let's go ahead and get this music just a little bit lower. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Songbird's Tavern. My name is Fairy Maxie, and today, this is the very first day that I am actually doing this. Am I a little nervous? Perhaps just a little bit. I wanted to welcome everybody officially to the Spheri Sunday Book Club, where every week we will take a chance. We'll take an hour out of our day and we will read a book. Today's book, as you saw, is Dragon Slippers by Jessica Day George. I'm gonna go ahead and type that up in chat where you guys can all hear and see. Facebook. Dragon Slippers by Jessica. Now, if you guys have already seen or read this book, wonderful. It is a fantastic young adult novel. I cannot recommend it enough. I will go ahead, though, and ensure that I can get a picture of it just up here. This is the first in a series of 3. This book was released and published originally back in 2007 by best-selling author Jessica Day George, who lived in Utah. It is the first of the 3 books. There is Dragon Slippers, followed by Dragon Flight, followed by Dragon Sphere. I believe it is trio. Yes, it is a, goodness, I forgot the word that is, like, a trio for books. What is it? It's something. I've had this book since it released. My parents picked it up, and I would show you guys that it has my name written in it. It has my actual legal name fully written in this book. I can't go ahead and show you it, just because I want you guys to see that, yes, I have had this book for a hot minute. I'll go ahead and get the image up. Let me go ahead and get this going just so you guys can all see. And I'd like you all to know that I'm very excited to be reading this for everybody. Leave. Yes. Okay. I think yes. Hello. So This is my book. Oh goodness. I have this really zoomed in. I need to zoom it out a tiny bit. Guys might see that, and that's okay. Hello, good morning. How are you doing today, my friend? Yep, there's my G-Hub. Cool. Welcome to Spiri's Sunday Book Club. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out a good portion. That's my wall, by the way. You're studying. That's wonderful. Here's my book. Oh goodness. How do I... Okay, this is in frame now. Ignore my chipped nail polish. This is how badly broken my spine is. For context, I read the fuck out of this book. The pages are yellowed. This is the book that we're reading today. I could have shown that a little easier, but you know what? We don't do things because they're easy. Go ahead and get dragon slippers. This up to where I can have that. There we go. For those who want to know, this is the book that we are reading. Thank you very much, Dmitry Shilkov. I can't pronounce that name right now. But let's go ahead and get... We will be reading for the next hour. So if you want to listen in and just enjoy, or if you have the book and you want to read along, go for it. But we are going to go ahead and get started at the best part of any good story. And do you know what that is? One, having caffeine. And two, the very beginning. The foreword for this book is for Mikey, who has put up with an awful lot over the past 9 years, but who never gave up on me or let me give up on myself. And for the dragons. This music is a little happy. I need softer music, please. Can you please get some softer music? Zappy. It's a little better. We'll take this. We're gonna bring this volume though very, very much down. There we go. We just want it to be very, very, very. There we go. Okay. The Brown Dragon of Carleaf. It was my aunt who decided to give me to the dragon. Not that she was evil or didn't care for me. It's just that we were very poor, and she was, as we said in those parts, dumber than 2 turnips in a rain barrel. My father had been a terrible farmer, and too proud to admit it, so he'd struggled on year after year despite countless failed harvests. It had only been my mother's skill with embroidery that kept us from starvation. She had sewn fancy work for all the merchants' wives, and once for the lady of the manor. But now, mother and father were dead of a fever, leaving me and my brother, Hagen, to the mercy of my father's sister and her husband, who weren't exactly wealthy themselves. After the sale of our farm bought only enough money to pay off the mortgage, my aunt proposed that I'd marry into money, so pull the rest of the family out of poverty. But while I was pleasant... Apologies, my pages are sticking together. But while I was pleasant enough to look at, with blue eyes and a small nose, my straw yellow hair was also straw straight, and I was sadly freckled. To be blunt, I was no beauty, and as I could not spin straw into gold or cry diamond tears, There was no reason for a wealthy suitor to overlook the fact that I had no dowry whatsoever. "It will have to be the dragon," my silly aunt declared as we sat around the hearth, holding what my uncle called a council of war. "Surely a brave adventuring knight will save her from its clutches," she continued, "and then we shall all be taken away to live in his castle." She was also very fond of reading romantic tales.
"All of us."
My uncle looked up from where he sat by the fire and riddled a rattle for my newest cousin.
"Throwing yourself and myself and our youngsters into the mix as well."
He winked at me behind her back. He has a sly humor after years of dealing with my aunt.
"It's the least he could do,"
she said stiffly. Which really made no sense at all. Why would anyone be rewarded for defeating a dragon by being saddled with a dowryless freckled wife and well over a dozen daft and impoverished in-laws? No matter how I pleaded and my uncle argued logic, my aunt could not be swayed. That my uncle finally agreed to the plan made me realize just how badly off they'd been. Their farm, like my father's had been, was on the brink of ruin. Hagen was 14 and could help in the fields, so there was no need to get rid of him. But I was just another mouth to feed, bloodkin or not. Rolling my eyes, I went into the hills above our town and stood outside the great smoke-stained entrance of the cave where everyone agreed that the Dragon of Carleaf lived. My aunt came with me to make sure that I didn't try to skeeve off, and brought her 2 oldest boys and Hagen as well. She promised them each a penny candy if they would pitch rocks at the cave mouth to awaken the dragon once she was safely back onto the trail to the town. Hagen just shook his head at me and grinned. "Not to worry, Creel," he assured me. "All us lads dare each other to come up and he'll lift the dragon. He's never been seen, not since Grandad's time. Dead as a doornail, I bet. Just wait here until dark and then come on home. Dad says maybe you can get work at the manor." I smiled and nodded, suddenly choking back tears. My scanty possessions were in a satchel slung over my shoulder, including any yarn or embroidery floss I had managed to save from my mother's supplies before my aunt sold them. I didn't want to upset him, but this would likely be the last time I saw Hagen for a very long, long time. My uncle had mentioned it at the manor to me, working at the manor to me as well. He told me to go to the caves to humor my aunt, and when I got back, he would take me to the manor housekeeper to see the manor housekeeper about a job. But I had seen the doubt in his eyes, and I knew it was a slim hope. I had my own plans. Once Hagen and the other boys had gone back to town, and they didn't involve scrubbing floors. My aunt started down the trail, shrilly directing the boys to start throwing rocks and admonishing me for not to forget whose idea it had been to bring me to the dragon. I promised her cheerfully that I would not. I snickered with Hagen, and even threw a few rocks myself. Either the dragon had risen from the dead, however, or it had been away visiting friends since our granddad's time. It appeared soon after we began our bombardment. The first thing we heard was a great rumbling and scraping, audible even over the sounds of our shouts. Then a plume of smoke came out of the cave, followed by the beast itself. My 2 cousins took off, screaming like anything, while Hagen and I stood there numbly, staring at the dragon. It was brown and scaly and looked impossibly old, with a great shining rack of golden horns on its massive head. My throat was dry. So dry that the sides stuck painfully together, and a cold river of sweat started down my back beneath my worn gown. Hagen touched my elbow. "Run," he whispered. He sounded as terrified as I felt, and I was grateful that he had stayed with me. "Run." "You run," I said. I didn't think my legs would work. "I'll be right behind you." I felt the stirring of air as my brother wheeled about, needing no more urging, and took off down the trail like a young deer. My legs failed to carry me after. I was mesmerized by the ancient beast's great golden eyes. "What do you want?" Its voice rumbled and grated and hurt the bones behind my ears. "I am a virgin, pure and true," I recited as my aunt had coached. not knowing what else to say. My voice came out in a wheeze, and my legs were now trembling so hard I feared they might rattle me right off my feet.
And what am I supposed to do to you? What am I supposed to do with you?
The dragon snorted, and a ball of fire shot out and burnt the grass to ash not 2 paces from me. Nothing. I am sure that a noble knight will come to save me from your clutches. I blushed to say something so ridiculous, but I didn't know how else to answer. I wasn't actually in his clutches, and the Lord of Carleaf's son was the only noble knight for miles around, and was known more for his skill at dancing than his fighting prowess.
Are you a princess?
No.
Then what are you?
I'm the daughter of a farmer, I said, lifting my chin. My name is Creliciel. I don't know how to pronounce this name. Hold on. Creliciel? Yeah, Creliciel. Creliciel Carlbrun. Carlbrun. I'm having a rough time speaking.
Oh, by the first fires, the dragon moaned. I have no desire to deal with this. He shook his rack of horns. I am old and tired and bored with all the foolishness that humans cause.
Oh, I said, feeling as foolish as they come. It had not occurred to me, or any of my family, that even the dragon might not want me. Its words also made me wonder. Who would come after the daughter of a poor farmer? Would some knight or lord really be moved enough by my plight to risk his life for nobody like me? I'm sorry, I told the dragon sheepishly. I can leave. I had a vague idea of where I would go. I got to carry on my mother's dream of opening her own dress shop in one of the larger cities. And anything would be better than being eaten by a disgruntled and elderly dragon.
I don't think so, the dragon rumbled. Get into the cave. Go on.
It waved one claw towards the entrance.
I'd like to find out exactly how much trouble you're going to cause before I decide how to dispose of you.
I'd really rather save you the worry, I said, desperately.
Go,
the dragon said again, pointing to the dark cave.
Hurry.
So, it's not really that the name is hard, it's just the fact that it has a lot of vowels. Like, I don't know why this name has so many vowels, but we're gonna go ahead and play this. I'm changing the music up a tiny bit. We are gonna actually swap over to Skyrim, because Skyrim has some fantastic, just ambient noise. So if you guys want to know what we're playing, we are currently playing Skyrim Autumn Mix. I hate to admit, scared though as I was also quite curious about what a dragon's lair would look like. Would I be permitted to see the great mound of gold on which he slept? Was the ground carpeted with the bones of fallen knights? Feeling myself, I cautiously preceded the dragon into his cave. It was quite a disappointment. Really, there was nothing out of the ordinary about the dragon's lair at all. It was almost exactly like the caves to the east where my girl cousins met their swains to canoodle. Nothing more than a large, damp room with some imposing but not particularly inspiring rock formations. I breathed a sigh of regret, inhaling the odor of stone and cold and just a hint of sulfur. Perhaps I would not be treated to a sight of his hoard after all. I was no longer as worried about being eaten as I had been. The dragon did not seem that inclined towards munching on human flesh. I was more worried that he would send me away empty-handed, without either a champion or a generous dowry. I didn't want the champion, but the dowry money would come in handy. It seemed that I had heard stories of noble creatures such as dragons taking pity on doweryless girls and gifting them with ancient treasures. Hadn't I? Perhaps it wasn't dragons, but surely to avoid having to fight some overzealous knight, this one might make an exception?
Do not step in the pool.
The dragon's rough voice intruded in my reverie. I halted in time to avoid putting my foot in a perfectly circular pool in front of me. I looked down and couldn't see the bottom. And to my alarm, I couldn't see my reflection either. Just the dragon looking back up at me. But it wasn't my dragon, I realized with a start. It was a blue-gray dragon with only 2 horns on its head, and it was looking up at me from the pool with an expression of what I guessed to be surprise.
By the first fires, Theodorus! What is that you've got there?
The voice of the blue-gray dragon rippled through the waters of the pool just slightly, but his image didn't waver. It was an unsettling sight.
It looks like a human female. It is a human female, the brown dragon said with disgust. It appeared at the entrance of my cave, demanding that I fight some knight over it, and I never wanted it to begin with.
Have a moment, I protested, tearing my gaze away from the alarming vision in the enchanted pool. I never demanded such a thing. Any such thing, in fact. I've been offering to leave quietly, and you wouldn't let me.
Its clan sent it here.
The brown said woefully. And now it thinks that a knight will come to save it, even though it is not a noble born.
Hooey, the blue-gray breathed. It's been years since I've had to fight a knight.
It licked its chops with a forked tongue.
I don't know what you're complaining about. She looks tasty enough, and you'll get to eat her champion, too.
A rattling laugh stirred over the water.
It's almost enough to make me fly over there to your territory to share the feast.
My knees were knocking so hard I was sure the dragons could hear them. My teeth had begun to chatter. The brown dragon reminded me of the local tailor, who was much plagued by his wife and 8 children, and liked to pretend that he couldn't stand the lot of them. Secretly, though, he doted on the entire brood, but this great beast wasn't the local tailor. He was an animal. A monster, really. And it seemed that he did eat humans. Or at least he was acquainted with dragons that did. I hated my aunt suddenly, with a ferocity that startled me and kept me from hearing the brown dragon's next words. Beg pardon? I shook my head to clear my thoughts. It was certainly the wrong time for me to be daydreaming, but that was something so surreal about my situation that I could hardly focus on the here and now.
We were not speaking to you,
Theodorus said in his dry voice.
If you must use the pool, you must,
the blue-gray dragon sighed.
But promise me that you will summon me right back, Theodorus. I'm dying to know how this is going to turn out. Very well.
Theodorus agreed in a much put-upon tone.
Now go.
He put one claw into the pool and stirred it, breaking up the image of the other dragon, which had something that nearly approached a grin on its face. Theodorus withdrew his claw and then blew a gust of hot, sulfurous breath across the surface of the pool. The surface boiled and then bubbles were replaced by an image I recognized as the gate to the Lord's Manor. Standing before them were my aunt, Hagen, and the entire host of my cousins. There was a large crowd of townsfolk as well. And I groaned in despair. Even if the dragon did let me go, there would be no living this down. I was going to have to leave Carleaf for certain. Theoratus dipped a claw into the water briefly, and the sound of my aunt's piercing voice filled the cave.
Swooping down out of the sky like some great demon from the holy writings,
she squawked, waving her arms for emphasis, while my field cousins all sobbed into their aprons and nodded in carefully coached agreement.
Simply carried her off, and a finer, prettier, more accomplished girl there never was.
It took a moment to realize that she was talking about me, and I felt a surge of liking for my aunt. Then I recognized her listener as the Lord's son and groaned again. She didn't truly think that I was pretty or accomplished, I told myself. She was only trying to stir him up so that he would ride out to save her poor dragon-abducted niece. The townsfolk were muttering and weeping in appreciation of the story. The women clutched their children closer, and the men scanned the skies for more dragon activity. "You must do something," a woman screeched. "Our Lord must protect us."
This is going to be irritating, at the least,
Theoratus rumbled. And at the most, there was a quaver in my voice that I couldn't hide.
Painful. He bared all his teeth in a jagged grin. But not for me, of course.
What if he should slay you?
I didn't want to offend the beast, but I was a touch skeptical about his blithe attitude. The Lord's son was very brave, even if he was not very muscular. You don't get to be 670 years old by being slow or weak, the dragon informed me.
Oh,
I shivered. In the pool, the Lord's son was striking at his chest with a large fist and proclaiming that he would rescue the fair maid or be killed in the endeavor.
oh dear, I said.
Chapter 2. A fine pair of shoes.
I'm gonna take a quick moment to take a little sip of water, ask you guys, how are you enjoying this so far? For those who are listening in, for those who are just here to relax and have some ambience in the background, welcome in. Look, I unplugged my microphone by accident. That's on me. We will be doing this every Sunday until I run out of books or until my voice gives out. For those who are here, welcome in. I'm happy to have you here. For those who are watching in the future, hi, welcome in. It means a lot to me that you're here. All right, we've had some water, had some caffeine. Now, where were we? Ah, yes, the Pit of Despair. A fine... You know what? That'll be the second book that I read, which is going to be The Princess Bride. How about that? I feel like that could be fun. Well, I sat glumly on a stone outcropping with my pitiful bundle of belongings beside me. The brown dragon dispersed the image of my aunt and her audience and summoned his blue-gray friend again. I was trying to think of some alternative, some way I could get out of this mess and go home. No, not home. I didn't have a home anymore. And I was old enough to make my own way in the world, one way or another. First, however, I needed to get out of this cave. The Lord of Carleaf's son is coming. Apologies, that was Theoratus.
The Lord of Carleaf's son is coming.
Theoratus told his friend in a dry growl.
To rescue the fair maiden. Is she fair?
His friend squinted up out of the water at me.
I can never tell with these humans.
He shook his head.
Is he decked out in shining armor and already madly in love with the poor maiden? Yes,
Theoratus admitted, an expression of distinct embarrassment crossing his face. The other dragon roared with what I realized was laughter.
I might come and watch. Earnest young knights are my favorite sport. I love the looks on their faces when they realize they're being slow-cooked in their own armor.
The idea was forming in my brain, though I had to take a moment to quell the horrifying image of the Lord's son being slow-cooked in his own armor. This outer chamber of the Dragon Slayer was very plain, but there was a wide opening beyond the pool that surely led to more caves. I hopped down from my cold seat. If I may suggest something, I began.
No.
The brown dragon said curtly. If you would please listen to me, I could save you the inconvenience of having to fight the Lord's son, I wheedled.
No one asked you,
Theoratus retorted. But I don't want to stay here and have you fight him, I said, taking a bold step towards the beast. And you don't want to have to fight him either. What is it trying to say? The blue-gray dragon peered up at me curiously. There was a look of amusement on its muzzle. I will happily leave here and take the Lord's son with me, I said in a rush. That way you won't have to worry about me or fighting the Lord's son or any other knight. And all I ask in return is a small trinket from your large and no doubt magnificent hoard. A single jewel-encrusted goblet from the dragon's hoard would pay my way to a city, perhaps even to the king's seat itself. And surely the dragon would not miss a single item from what I was sure was a prodigious treasure trove, especially considering his age.
You want something from my hoard?
The brown dragon looked stunned. My heart sank. Perhaps in Dragon Society this was a horrible faux pas. I prayed fervently that it wasn't the sort of mistake that was remedied by roasting the offender. The other dragon guffawed, stirring the water of the pool underneath.
What in the name of the 7 volcanoes do you want a pair of shoes for?
I beg your pardon? I stared from one dragon to the other. Shoes? A pair of... No, I wanted a goblet or some such.
A goblet?
The brown dragon looked mystified.
I don't collect dinnerware.
The other dragon snorted, rippling at the surface of the pool.
She's heard the stories, he explained. She thinks we all lounge on piles of gold.
You don't? My voice was a squeak.
Of course not,
Theoratus said.
Well, I'm sure there are some of us who do. It takes all kinds. I myself fancy shoes.
His golden eyes half closed.
There's just something so fascinating about the way that they're made and the way styles change over the years.
Welcome in, trains. We are currently on Chapter 2 of Dragon Slippers. We will probably get to Chapter 3 by the time that my hour of reading is up. So far, we have been introduced to Creel, our main character, Theoratus, our golden dragon, and a blue-gray dragon that does not have a name yet. Speaking of, the blue-gray dragon in the pool was laughing quietly, a sound that made my eyes water.
Go on then. Let her take a pair of shoes if she likes and be off.
I looked down at my rough sandals. I thought again about going back. I thought about my aunt and the bed that I shared with my cousins, who pinched me when they wanted more blankets. One pair of shoes. I bargained with the brown dragon of Carleaf, feeling my heart hammering against my chest at my boldness. And I'll never trouble you again. It was a long, terrible silence.
Oh, why not?
He sighed.
Come this way.
He led me past the pool where the image of the other dragon still laughed, and through the entrance into the inner chamber of his lair. Here, too, I was disappointed, as this proved to just be another large cavern, but with a huge oval depression in the floor to one side that I suspected might be the dragon's bed. Beyond the bed was yet another rough opening, and this one was curtained by a large and somewhat moldy tapestry. The dragon pulled the tapestry aside with a gesture that was almost reverent, and motioned with his foreclaw for me to precede him into the inner cave. I took a deep breath, still secretly hoping for a pile of gold, and stepped forward. Shoes. Shoes as far as the eye could see. This third cavern was the largest yet, and every square foot of it was covered in wooden racks holding shoes. Women's shoes, men's shoes, children's shoes. There were boots and dancing slippers and sandals, shoes made of cloth and leather and wood. There were fanciful pointed slippers with bells on the upturned toes, and men's work boots with thick soles. I marveled at fur-lined boots embroidered with red silk and clusters of small shells. The dragon watched carefully as I caressed a pair of high-heeled dancing slippers so encrusted with emeralds that I doubted the wearer would even be able to walk in them, let alone dance. I could not imagine what sort of person would wear such shoes, and I stopped to imagine briefly where that woman had lived, and when.
Make your choice,
The dragon said as I reached out a hand to a tiny pair that were apparently carved of crystal. The dragon's voice sounded nervous, and I wondered if he was afraid that my rough peasant's hands would damage the delicate footwear. I withdrew my hand and moved on, searching for shoes that would perhaps be my size, that looked to be my size, something sensible. I thought boots, perhaps, or at the very least sturdy brogues. Nevertheless, I paused before a delicate pair of green satin slippers embroidered with gold. My mother would have loved them, thought with a pang. I remembered how she had sighed over some wealthy embroidery she had done for some of the wealthy women of the town. It always saddened me that she was forced to wear such plain gowns, which all the while she was toiling over beautiful and intricate garments for women who did not even look her in the eyes when they paid her. No, Creel, I told myself firmly, moving on. You have to be sensible. Sensible. I was not going back to Carleaf Town. I had to make my own way in the world, and if I was going to take a pair of shoes, they would need to reflect that. Began looking at the sturdy shoes with thick soles. They should fit well and be comfortable, and there was no point in having them at all. Fortunately, in the 600 or so years that the brown dragon had been collecting shoes, he amassed quite an array in all shapes and sizes, and I soon had a large selection to try on. He still seemed tense about me touching his hoard, but I was careful to treat each pair gently, no matter how plain or fancy. I set them down on the far side of the room and crouched down to see which ones fit. The embroidered slippers made me think of my vague plan, and as I tried on pair after pair of shoes, I worked it over. My mother had taught me to embroider, and to knot and weave sashes and lace. She herself had been an assistant dressmaker in the King's Seat, before a visit to some cousins had resulted in her meeting and marrying my father. She'd never let me do anything for an actual customer, explaining that they had paid her to do the work, and that she'd an obligation to do it. She had trained me using scraps of fabric and tag's ends of thread, and I could admit without any false modesty that I was good. Very good, in fact. After I had surpassed even my mother's skill, she often lamented that my talent would be wasted in Carleaf, with no money to send me to a larger city where I might find a place at a fancy shop. I had thought that a piece of the dragon's hoard, with that I could pay my way to the city and buy the materials. I would need for a sampler set to show potential employers. You are correct. All dragons are autistic with different hyperfixations. Theoratus loves shoes, which I cannot deny that I am also a shoe girly. I get it. Shoes are incredible. I think for the past, 3 pages, I've been talking about nothing but shoes. It kind of makes me wonder what my husband's hyperfixation is, because he's a dragon, so I want to know, what his hoard is, but he's probably going to say something cheesy like me. I know, because I have my own dragon tendencies, my hoard is my stories. I love my books. And if you know the meaning behind my books, you'll understand what that means. If I was as accomplished as my mother had said, then I hope to earn enough to one day open my own shop. But without silver to buy what I needed, I would have to try another way. Perhaps if I went to the King's Seat, where I was totally unknown and claimed that bandits had robbed me of nearly everything during the journey, the scanty bits of cloth and yarn I had with me would be enough for me to find a job. I had been so caught up in my plans that it took me a moment to realize that I had gone through all the shoes that I had originally selected, and none of them fit. I heaved a sigh and put them all back and began searching for more. Perhaps some sturdy work boots meant for a boy, or a better pair of sandals would have to do. There was a sound from the outer cavern, and the dragon left off his anxious scrutiny of me. I gathered from the rumbling that his friend was impatient to hear what was happening. At the far end of the last row of shelves, I found a strange pair of shoes. Well, not really all that strange. They were sitting beside two somethings made of black and white feathers, which could not possibly fit human feet, but they attracted my attention nonetheless. They were a rich azure blue and made from very soft, thick leather. They had no laces, but slipped over the foot to reach a little way up the front and back of the ankle. The heels were low and the soles were made of a stiffer dark gold leather, and the interiors were lined with white silk. They were much too fancy for my needs, but I couldn't tear my eyes from them all the same. They looked to be just my size and terribly comfortable. Besides, I reasoned, they were obviously new and of good quality, and if I wanted to pass myself off as a master artisan, I would need to dress better. And that meant wearing nicer shoes. I picked them up and went back to the center of the room, where I had been gathering the other group of shoes to try on. I left the blue slippers for last, but I already knew in my gut that they would be the only pair that fit. I was right. None of the boots or sandals, the brogues, or even the crude moccasins I thought came from the Southlands fit my feet. They were too big or too small. The toe pinched or the heel did. They were too stiff or too floppy for proper walking. And then I slipped on into the blue pair. They fit as though they had been made for my feet. They were so light I felt as if I were barefoot, yet the soles were thick enough that I could not even feel the uneven stone floor beneath them. They were supple as I walked and didn't slide or shave my feet. I had a sudden urge to cut the skirt off of my gown at the knee so that everyone could admire my beautiful new shoes. By the 7 volcanoes! The dragon had returned and steam was rising from his nostrils as he surveyed my footwear. What are you doing? I was taken aback by his reaction. You said I could have any pair of shoes I wanted, I said stubbornly. I had never owned anything as nice as these shoes, and longing for them made me bold. And these are the only ones that fit me. I want these. Any shoes but those. I frowned at him. No, it was to be any shoes I liked. You never said that there was some pairs that I could not have. What's going on? The voice of the blue gray came wafting into the shoe cave.
Which shoes did she pick? She picked the Eratus began, roaring over his winged shoulder to the cave entrance. She picked the...
Then he looked back at me and snapped his fanged muzzle shut. You said any pair of shoes, I reminded him, or I will stay here and let my aunt rouse the entire town to come after you. I folded my arms and put my chin in the air. You gave your word just as I gave mine.
You don't know what you're doing,
the brown dragon said, its eyes narrowed into slits. They're only shoes, I pointed out. They are very nice, I hastened to add, and they are certainly the finest slippers I have ever worn. They fit me perfectly. Theoratus studied me carefully for some minutes, while the sound of the blue-gray's voice grew ever more petulant. The brown monster stared at the shoes, still visible because I was holding up my skirt so I could admire them too. He looked into my face, and smoke continued to billow from his nostrils, making my eyes water.
Just a pair of shoes, you say?
His voice was rougher than normal.
I did indeed give my word, and you will hold me to it.
Mute and confused, all I could do was nod. He heaved an enormous sigh, even more bone-rattling than the ones he had admitted when I had first arrived, and then he turned away.
Then
I may keep them? I called after him.
I gave my word,
Came the heavy reply.
You wish to have those shoes, and I cannot refuse you.
There was the scraping of his claws on stone. As he walked back through the sleeping chamber,
She has selected a pair of shoes.
I heard him tell the blue-gray dragon. Oh, come now. The other dragon was obviously still highly amused by the situation. Did she winkle out your favorite pair? You look as though your fire had gone out.
Come forward, girl.
Theoratus snapped, and show Sound it out, Spiri. You're a goddess of stories. Show Amakarin.
What shoes you have chosen?
Still holding my skirt to my knees, I walked over to the edge of the pool and held first one foot and then the other over the water. I was very proud of myself. The blue-gray dragon reflected there, hissed and drew back in shock. His eyes flicked from my feet to Theoratus and back several times before he could speak.
Those shoes?
He was gasping for air. Out of all the foolish human footgear you have collected over the years, he selected those. Why do you even have them? The great brown dragon bristled, literally, at having his hoard referred to as foolish, but he did not otherwise reply. I looked from one beast to the other. What is so remarkable about these shoes? Amakarin, the blue-gray was apparently named, hissed again.
Those shoes? Those shoes were made by a master craftsman many years ago.
Theoratus interrupted.
And no dragon parts lightly with something he treasures. Especially something like
Amakarin began.
Any choice would have been difficult for me to see on your feet.
Theoratus broke in. I said, well, I'm sorry to have upset you. I looked from one dragon to the other, but neither spoke for a very long time. Theoratus turned to me.
You have your shoes, girl. Now go, and remember to keep your part of the bargain.
Yes, sir. I squeaked, my attention being drawn from my new shoes to the fact that I was standing just a pace away from a large and very upset dragon. I let go of my skirts and hustled back to the shoe room to fetch my things, slipping my old sandals into the bundle just in case. I toyed with the idea of leaving them behind, a little addition to the Dragon of Carleaf's collection, but decided that they were far too crude and shabby. Besides, I might want to wear them for a while to spare my new shoes. Thank you, sir, I said sincerely, and made my way out of the caves. You have been most kind and understanding about this whole, business.
I have kept my part of the bargain.
Theoratus said.
Now you must keep yours.
Yes, indeed, I replied, and hurried down the path towards Carleaf Town. So, that was the first 2 chapters of Dragon Slippers. Every week we will begin to do 2 chapters, and if I decide that one day I might want to do a bit more than just 1 chapter, we'll go for it. Let me pick which card will be my bookmark, because I don't have a bookmark yet for this. I might have it be Hatsune Miku. Do I have any cards here that have books? Any book cards? Book cards? Book cards? Okay. I think I have... Okay. We are going to go ahead and use the Magic the Gathering card Uncharted Voyage. It is the holo version, as our bookmark for this evening. This has been Spiribaxi's Book Club, the Sunday Book Club, where every week I will begin to read and go through a book. Once we have finished Dragon Slippers, I will go ahead and put out a poll for the next book that we'll be reading. On those books, one of them will be The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'd rather read it before I watch it. Now, I want you all to wonder and think about the books. If there's any books that you would like to hear about or have me read one day, and if this gets popular enough, we'll continue reading. But until then, that has been this evening's stream. I need to go and lay down. It wasn't a rough day at work, but it was interesting to say the least. Let's go ahead and see if I have anybody to read to, but I don't think that I do. I think all of my friends are asleep at the moment. Yep, looks like everybody's asleep. So folks, you are free to go and to have a wonderful rest of your day. Remember, Fairy loves you. Mwah.